Tom Brady is a known slinger of cuss words. Okay. He loves the F-bombs, right? I think there was a few times where he stopped himself or was afraid to keep talking because he was going to let one slip.
There was a part of me that was getting pretty pissed off where I'm like, he's going to walk in there and he's just going to be naturally so good. I have a terrible potty mouth, as you guys both know. And somehow I can string together a few sentences sometimes on this podcast without swearing. And I did live radio.
Potty mouth?
Couldn't be me. But I did live radio the whole Sportsnet 650 tenure. I did not say one swear word. So that's bullshit.
And speaking of getting the party started.
For the victory lap, though. They ain't never seen nothing like this before. Lit the room when I came through the front door. Ask me if I stress overcome, what for? Train in the trees, please pardon my sycamore. Touch burning sands, cross lands, and stormy shore seasons in the year, yeah. Switch gears, with keeping haters in the rear. At the blood, sweat, and tears, and my goal so near. I see my victory so clear. I see my victory so clear. It's a day, we break through. 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 It's a day, we break through.
You know, every time I'm watching our intro, I get like 3 clips in, and then I just see Katie way back when with like that really dark brunette hair, and I'm thrown for a loop. It's just, it baffles me, and I had to start this podcast by saying that. What's up, everybody? It's episode 47 of the Gridiron Podcast, the only podcast that we know of in the world that covers our 2 loves exclusively, that being football and Formula One. And boy, do we love this week, because we finally get to talk about the 2 sports we love in season together at the same time once again. I'm Sean Barry. Joining me as always up in the left-hand corner, if you are watching on Twitch, Twitter, or YouTube, as he flexes, the bald behemoth holding down the fort in DeLand, it's Nick Shook. And up in the right-hand corner, our Canadian queen, Katie Caldwell. Guys, how you doing this week?
That's like basically how I look when I flex too. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to embarrass Nick.
I wouldn't. Yeah, no, please. He has a fragile ego, male ego fragile, you know.
Sure.
But I'm good. What a Sunday we have coming up. Football and Formula One.
Everything just felt right this weekend because there was college football. There was 5 days straight of football on TV, starting on Thursday with the NFL kicking off between the Chiefs and Ravens. Then you had college football on Friday. You had the NFL in Brazil on Friday. Saturday, college football was dominant. Then you had Sunday NFL, Monday NFL. We're recording on a Tuesday night. It was nonstop, and I loved it.
Speak for yourself.
Okay, well, as someone
Nick,
that works for NFL media, yeah, Nick, how you hanging in there?
It didn't feel right on Friday when I was covering a game on Friday night at the house. Sunday felt pretty normal. I will say this Sunday, so I got my first taste of doing a full day of game coverage and everything else, writing, and then doing NFL Daily, which was a blast. I also came to realize it's about a 13-hour day. You add in the F1 race, and we're looking at about 16 hours. So your boy's going to need to get some sleep on Saturday night, which is a struggle because it's my only night off. So real test case here this weekend. Check back to find out how it goes.
You know what? Nick and I got to hang out about 2 weeks ago. And Nick, I know you're good on minimal sleep, okay, as we discovered.
As you learned.
as we learned. 4 or 5 hours is plenty, my man.
No names, please.
It is, like I said, episode 47 of the Gridiron Podcast. We're going to start out with NFL talk this week because how could we not with the league finally kicking off? Then we're going to transition into Formula One. Stick around for that because lots of breaking news. Adrian Newey heading to Aston Martin, making so much money, a stupid amount of money. Daddy Warbucks, a.k.a. Lawrence Stroll, just throwing the bag at him, backing up what is the Canadian, do you have Brinks in Canada, Katie?
Do we what, sorry?
Do you have Brinks, like the armored truck company, or like what is the armored truck company of Canada?
I don't think I've ever seen one.
What?
We maybe have Brinks, but it's not a normal thing for us. I've seen them in America.
That is so Canadian. You don't have armored trucks.
Do your bank robbers
here's your money, eh?
First? Do they like step up and go, "Oh, hey, you mind if we take this?
Give me some of that Monopoly money."
Oh, hey, buddy, I can't fit all this in my trunk. Do you mind following me in your car there? It's just unmarked bills. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
you
sure.
betcha.
We're all about that. All right.
Don't
Anyway,
say he's not an
NFL
awful
talk here on the Gridiron Podcast. As always, please chime in on the comments. You can even email us at thegridironpodcast3@gmail.com. That's thegridironpodcast3. Damn those other two at gmail.com. What do we want to start off with this week in terms of the NFL? Just our love for it. I see that in the rundown we got Deshaun Watson sucks at football. We're gonna start with that, or are we just gonna start with our overall thoughts on the weekend?
That was my first thought to put in the rundown. It was my big takeaway from the week. We don't have to start with that.
It is a big takeaway. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's not the lead, right?
It's
right.
not.
Let's just all right. Recap week 1 in the NFL. I don't know, Nick. You're the
Jets.
NFL media guy here. We want to talk about the Jets.
Sure.
All right, let's do it. Monday Night Football. The return of Aaron Rodgers after a year in which he spent hinting at a return that never came, finally gets to play more than a series for the Jets. And what do you know? It's in San Francisco. We were wondering if, Aaron Rodgers was going to be in, regular season form again, but the Jets lost to the 49ers. So he's actually in postseason form already. Not a great record against the 49ers. Final score in that one was, 32-19. Really wasn't that close. Eventually, they didn't bench Aaron Rodgers. Robert Saleh didn't bench Aaron Rodgers, but they threw in the towel there in the fourth quarter when it was out of reach. So what do we think about this? Because there was all this buildup. Aaron Rodgers, triumphant return in his hometown. And, I mean, he played well at times, but I don't know, the whole thing. And I mean, granted, like they were playing the Niners, which are my pick to win the Super Bowl this year. But the whole thing just kind of fell a little flat to me.
Here's what happened, Sean. They didn't have the ball very much. They went 3 out on a number of possessions. They ended up losing the time of possession battle by a whole 17 minutes and 20 seconds, 38-40 to 21-20. It was the lowest time of possession in a game in Aaron Rodgers' career, and he threw 21 passes. He didn't have an opportunity to make much of a difference beyond one touchdown drive in which they went 12 plays, 70 yards, and finished it off with a Breece Hall 3-yard touchdown run. That was it from the Jets, because after that, well, the drive chart went like this: 3 and out, 1 play at the end of the half, 3 and out, 5 plays, scored a touchdown. That was on the pass down on a free play. Aaron Rodgers apparently has 3 times as many touchdown passes on free plays as any other quarterback, which tip of that to you stat heads for figuring that out. Turnover on downs, because they got a first down, then it was wiped out by a replay assist from New York, and then 2 downs later, they failed to convert. And then Tyrod came in and led a 12-play, 70-yard touchdown drive in garbage time. So they just didn't have the ball very much. That one touchdown drive, though, was a glimpse of what we could get from the Jets this year, because Rodgers was in form. He converted a couple of third downs on passes to Garrett Wilson. They were dicing up the Niner defense. They finished it off with the touchdown run. Everything looked cool. He went to the sideline. He said, "All day, baby, all day." And then all day became night, and night was dark for the Jets. So they got to figure it out. Their defense is really the issue. The defense is supposed to be their calling card, and it was not in this game.
It wasn't.
They couldn't get off the field.
Who is Jordan Mason?
Off the field.
Who the heck is Jordan Mason?
He's a backup running back.
What did he have? Like 146 rushing yards last night, and 147 ran right into the teeth of that defensive line, which is supposed to be a behemoth for the Jets. I mean, I texted you guys this last night. Y'all remember when Elijah Mitchell just came in and was like the fantasy darling a couple of years ago? Katie and I, we won a league each because we picked him up off the waiver wire way back when. We didn't even know each other back then. But Nick, you were even quick to say they have a template, and they just put that running back in there. And I mean, it's hard to replace Christian McCaffrey, but at the same time, Jordan Mason did a great job. Again, to me, it's the Niners. Like, I don't know how much we can take away from this for the Jets, that is, because the Niners are just that good. And even Robert Saleh after the loss said, like, he's not worried. Like, the defense will get right, the offense will get right. I kind of want to agree with him a little bit, because Aaron Rodgers didn't look bad, but at the same time, he did kind of look like the Aaron Rodgers we saw 2 years ago in Green Bay a little bit.
I'm going to tell you why he's not worried. They play Tennessee, New England, Denver, Minnesota, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and New England again. They're going to win most of those games.
You watch your mouth when you're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I mean, if you want to talk Steelers and their defensive dominance of Kirk Cousins and the Falcons, we can do that. But this is not the Steelers segment. The point is,
not yet. We'll get there.
They're going to win most of their games. They're going to have the ball longer. They're going to win most of their games as long as Aaron Rodgers is healthy. I'm very curious to see if they get the Hassan Reddick situation solved, because they missed him. They got no pass rush in that game.
Nope.
It's interesting to hear you say that about, well, they are playing the Niners, and that would be the case if we're talking about like the Falcons or something. But so many people leading up to week 1 have talked about the Jets' expectations, and I've heard them in Super Bowl in the same sentence with a lot of people. And it just felt like they weren't even close. Like, as a noted Aaron Rodgers hater, I loved that game. I enjoyed most of it. I cannot tell you the emotional boost that I personally got from watching him get picked off. But their offense as a whole was just really underwhelming. They couldn't stay on the field, like you said, Nick. They couldn't get anything going. But you also said this, their defense didn't look great either. And it's week 1. It's a small sample size. He's coming back from an injury. The Niners did look really, really good, though. I want to give the Niners some love, not just because how the Jets looked. Like Brock Purdy, I thought he had a really great game. Jordan Mason put on a show. Jake Moody is out there getting a ton of points. Like Debo looked great. The whole CMC situation is kind of funny because Jordan Mason had mentioned in the post-game interview, like, yeah, I found out Friday I was starting, and then he kind of tried to pull back, and that's a whole thing. But like, they plugged him in there and he looked like that. Like their whole system just looks so cohesive. The fact that you can just put him in like that and he puts up, what was it, Nick? 147?
147 on 28 carries, the most carries in a game for a 49ers running back in the Kyle Shanahan era.
Oh, I mean, it just looked so good. It looked so complete. And the Jets didn't even look in that same tier. They looked 3 tiers down from that.
The Browns and the Niners just plug in a running back and let them go, pretty much.
Not last week for the Browns.
Not last week for the Browns, true. Going around the NFL, I mean, some other interesting, I guess, look, other teams that kind of fell flat. The Falcons, okay, everyone was like, oh, they're the off-season darlings, right? They got Kirk Cousins, they got Matt Judon, and they could do nothing against that Steelers defense. Again, we'll get to that. You talk about the Bears.
Actually, Sean, I'm going to divert real quick before we even get to the Bears.
Please do.
Logan got in the chat and he said, I'm joining late. I assume we've already discussed the undefeated Patriots. All right.
We haven't, but I was getting there. That was next on my list.
Yeah, homer, Logan. First off, thanks for listening, but also you're a homer and we all acknowledge it. But your team did win. Congrats. Week 1 usually doesn't mean much, though, so hold on tight, pal.
Hey, man, bungle's going to bungle, and week 1 Joe Burrow last couple of years, I mean, it's just been a head scratcher, a now blonde head scratcher. I mean, yeah, let's talk about that a little bit because Gerard Mayo gets his first win as the New England Patriots head coach. The defense, they do have a good defense. This Patriots team might be scrappy. I don't know how much that's going to help them this entire season. It is an 18-week season, but what is up with, and I don't want to take away from the Patriots, but what is up with the Bengals just not being ready to play week 1 time and time again?
It's officially a thing, it feels like.
It is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I was very confused by that.
I mean, there's no way to like unwrap that, really. It's just that, I don't know, Zach Taylor doesn't prepare his team very well for week 1. It takes a while to get rolling. I mean, last year we could just point to Joe Burrow being hurt, and that was like the excuse, but this is like a multi-year thing. Their offense was not capable of dealing with what the Patriots were giving them defensively. Like, and I saw this a lot in the league. First off, rushing numbers were better than passing numbers, or like passing numbers were very low for week 1 this past weekend. And I think a lot of that was offenses adjusting to aggressive and semi-exotic defenses. That's what they got from New England. Like everything Joe Burrow did in the passing game was check downs. He had like maybe 2 long balls. He had 1 decent pass over the middle and it got fumbled immediately because Kyle Duggar came in and knocked it out of the tight end's hands and the Patriots recovered. Like every time they got close to scoring, save for 1 touchdown drive, they just didn't convert.
I hate to
ugly day.
I hate to pick the low-hanging fruit here, but could that possibly be because of the preseason? Now down to 3 games. Yes, you get practices, you get more joint practices, but at the same time, we're not seeing teams throw out their best. We're not seeing teams throw out their starters. We're not.
Other teams are ready though.
Yeah, and that's the thing is it's like a tired talking point. Like
I know, and that's why I said like
the first month is really like the preseason in the NFL.
But at the same time, I'm kind of wondering just because we do see a weird kind of lull week 1. We see weird things.
You're right. But I'm telling you, this is a team that has a new offensive coordinator. I know Zach Taylor calls the plays, but their offensive coordinator is now the head coach in Tennessee. That is probably more of a reason for it than week 1 being like, extended preseason since they don't play. We did see it with Kirk Cousins and the Falcons. They did not establish a rhythm, but they were also playing a Steelers defense that's very strong. So it's not, unique to just this game. It was just startling to see the Bengals struggle so much offensively. Excuse me. And at the same time, Ramondre Stevenson just run it down their throat.
It's such a good game.
Yeah, like just Bengals, no teeth up front, just getting bullied by the Patriots and their offensive line, which is one of the most worrisome groups in the NFL entering week 1. Not in the run game, baby. Ramondre Stevenson got paid a few months ago, and now we're seeing why, and it produces a week 1 win. So we'll see how it goes. Logan chimed back in, and he said, party like it's 2018, baby.
That is an ambitious take. But seriously, like, big credit to Gerard Mayo for having that team ready. Like, the Bengals just didn't look quite as ready. Like Nick said, Ramondre had such a good game. Jacoby Brissett, even though he got pretty banged up during that game, he looked serviceable. That hit was like tough to watch. But did you guys see on Instagram that Keon White posted that he got a random drug test the day?
Oh, I love a good random drug test.
Love
Pat
it.
McAfee levels somebody and gets a random drug test the next day. Love it.
2.5 sacks? Yeah, we're coming on our day off here. We're going to go see what's going on.
Piss in this cup.
Speaking of tough to watch, the Carolina Panthers.
I thought you were going to say, speaking of pissing in the cup.
No, I'm not going down that avenue tonight. But no, the Carolina Panthers. Why?
Great question.
I feel so bad for any football fan in the Carolinas. But Dave Canales comes in there, and I had such belief in him that he would not turn the team around to a point where it was contending for anything, because that roster is just not built for it. That has to be pound for pound probably the worst roster in football. But at the same time, the Giants make a strong case. We'll get to them next. But I believed in his abilities as a motivator, right? That Ted Lasso type of coach that can get the best out of his players. I hope that was not their best, because they made the Patriots, or not, excuse me, not the Patriots, the Saints look like they were back. And a lot of people were picking the Saints to finish last in the NFC South because they thought Canales could take the Panthers to like that 5-6 win mark and the Saints wouldn't get there. The Saints put up 47 and Derek Carr looked like a man reborn. I'm not putting too much stock into the Saints after that win, but I'm selling every bit of stock I have on the Panthers right now.
You want to know the story of this game? Just look at the first touchdown pass. Derek Carr is under pressure. It's 3rd and long, and he just looks up and sees Rashid Shaheed just streaking down the field. And he's just like, F it, Shaheed down there somewhere. And just
no way I'm this lucky.
Yeah, and he catches it for a touchdown. Like, it was really that simple for them.
Yeah.
You looked up at the scoreboard at the end of the first quarter, it was 17-0. Bryce Young threw a pick on his first throw of the season. And you know, the broadcast is like, oh, that's just a miss. And it really was. Like, he had a guy open, but he just flat out missed him. And it was easy pickings for an interception. And by the time we got to halftime, it's freaking 30-0. And then they hit a field goal before. Sad field goal alert, by the way. Great sad field goal alert. Eddie Pinheiro, 43 yards out to close the first half to make it 30-3. Like, the game was over. They finished with 193 yards of total offense. They were dominated in time of possession by more than 13 minutes. They went 1 for 10 on 3rd down. And if you want a drive chart summary real quick, 1 play, 5 plays, 6 plays, 2 plays, 3 plays, 8 plays, 3, 8, 3, 8, 4, 3, 2. That was their drives. One of those ended in a touchdown, and it didn't matter. This is a bad team. It's going to be a bad team. They're going to struggle to get to 5 wins. And I think we said that in the training camp preview, was the fact that, look, Canales is there, and they're supposed to turn this team around, but it does not happen overnight. And especially for a quarterback like Bryce Young, it's going to take some time. And, well, Panthers fans, I'm sorry, but at least you have the Hornets.
I will say we saw the I think it was the Dolphins a couple of years ago who broke a record for most points allowed, or like biggest point differential in their first like 2 weeks, where they just got destroyed by, I think, the Patriots and someone else. And then I think they went on to win like 6-7 games that year anyway. I think that was his first year. So it's not the end of the road for the Panthers, but I mean, woof. Speaking of woof, like we said, the Giants, again, I mean, you just keep replaying that clip from Hard Knocks of their GM talking to Saquon on the phone going, yeah, go see what your market is and then come back to us and we'll figure something out. Oh my gosh. Saquon had more touchdowns in his first game as an Eagle than Daniel Jones has passing since he signed that deal 2 years ago. I don't know how anyone can be a Giants fan and like go to work on Monday and feel happy, feel joy.
Here's how they did. As soon as Andrew Van Ginkel picked sixth Daniel Jones, the fastest interception and the second fastest interception since he did it last year, according to Next Gen Stats in the last few seasons, Giants fans immediately headed for the exits. I think that made it either 21-6 or 28-6. They'd seen enough. They were not going to stick around for the end in the traffic. That's how you got to work with a clear head on Monday, because you went to bed early because you said, screw the Giants. You're not taking all 3 hours of my life.
It just makes me think of that meme with the sign that said our expectations were low, but holy fuck. Like, I was blown away when they paid Daniel Jones that amount of money. And I didn't think he was very good, but we've seen flashes and he's had injuries, and then it was horrific. That was a tough watch. I didn't think he was that bad of quarterback. I don't know if I've talked about this on the pod before.
He's that bad of a quarterback.
He is. Like, Christ, he was so bad. He was so bad to watch.
Katie, I got
he's so bad. He's got Katie saying Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I got into an argument with my editor because I was told I was being a little too harsh about Daniel Jones in a piece I wrote a couple weeks ago. So maybe you should like soften that a little bit. And I said, the guy, his best season was 3,200 yards and 15 touchdown passes. The guy stinks.
Yeah.
Okay. He's not a good quarterback, but they paid him because they had to. And now they're paying for it. Luckily they can get out of it with minimal dead cap. But the fact that it kind of like indirectly cost them Saquon, and then Saquon goes and scores 3 touchdowns for the Eagles in the first game is just poetic. Poetic justice in the words of Bart Scott.
And of
have
course
we talked about this? That I went to the draft in Nashville in 2019, and I was in a group of Giants fans when he was drafted.
No.
Oh my God. So I'm sitting there and like, I have no stake in the Giants at all. I'm just there to like have beers and have a great time. It was right on Broadway in Nashville, and I had just moved home from Nashville. So it was my first trip back. We're having a great time. And they announced the pick, and everyone around me, they're all like, it was a collective like, and then just curse words and screaming. And there's like, who the F is that? And then I
feel like he was like tied to the Giants though for a while, right? Like
everyone seemed pissed and shocked. And then I heard one rogue like, he had a 0-star rating on ESPN. Like, I was just in this sea for some reason of Giants fans when he got drafted, and I've never seen such a chaotic draft pick live. I will that will live in my brain rent free for the rest of my life. It was so funny.
Coming off of
loses his job this year.
Yeah. Coming off of Sunday's win for the Bucks down here in Tampa, it was Baker Mayfield said this, Todd Bowles said this. Don't take wins in this league for granted. It's hard to win games in this league. It's also hard to look that bad in this league, I feel like. And the Giants and Panthers made it look easy.
What's crazy about that game too is they got a turnover like quickly. Like the Vikings fumbled possession away in their first possession of the game. And then the Giants only managed to get a field goal out of it. The Vikings then scored 2 straight touchdowns. And before you know it, instead of being like, all right, here's the Giants' chance, it's 21-3 in the third quarter. Like, they had no shot. And they didn't even lose the time of possession battle. In fact, they won it by 5 minutes, but that was because the Vikings were moving down the field so quickly that they couldn't get a stop, that they were like, all right, well, I guess we have the ball back. 7 for 18 on third down, 9 penalties committed. Daniel Jones with a 44.3 passer rating, no run game to speak of. Devin Singletary averages under 4 yards a carry on 10 attempts. The only bright moment from this entire game, and probably for most of the season, is Malik Neighbors. But at the same time, from a fantasy perspective, yeah, he's a stud, but you really want to pick a receiver who's running routes for Daniel Jones? Like, again, I've been accused of being too hard on Daniel Jones, but after week 1, I feel vindicated, and it's only going to get worse.
And what a good day for Sam Darnold and the Vikings. Got Vikings fans now seeing shades of Case Keenum in 2019, or what was that, 2016 again, sorry. Good for him. I hope the fans enjoy it, because they're not going anywhere this year. But I mean, hey, you're along for the ride. Might as well enjoy it while it lasts, or enjoy it while you can, because we'll see what happens to them down the line.
As bad as the Giants were, the Vikings looked a lot better than I expected. Especially Sam Darnold. And I know they're playing against the Giants. I understand.
Yeah.
But
I've fallen into that trap before too.
But they didn't fall to their level as much as some teams weirdly and magically can, especially on week 1. But I might be becoming a bit of a Sam Darnold head, like in front of our eyes. And I don't know how I feel about that, but I might just go all in on loving Sam Darnold as a quarterback.
He was 15 for 17 early in the game. Like he wasn't perfect, but he was pretty close.
We
He
love
did everything right.
We
He
love
did.
a redemption arc on the Gridiron podcast. Speaking of redemption arcs, Baker Mayfield, your leading candidate for MVP at the moment.
Sean, let's not do that. It's week 1.
Do it.
After week 1, he's leading candidate for MVP.
Oh my god! I mean, look, he had a great game, great passer rating, but he also has Mike Evans
and Chris Godwin and Jalen McMillan, and
but like really Mike Evans,
really Mike Evans. Oh my gosh!
He
Oh
looks
man,
so good.
in
3
year what is
phenomenal
this?
catches,
12,
200 touchdowns.
year 11. Mike Evans, man, he is going to be the first Hall of Famer in Buccaneers history, or first offensive player from Buccaneers history to go into the Hall of Fame, and that's not even up for debate. And he deserves every second of it. I mean, the Bucs looked good. I'm concerned about the secondary now because they are so thin. They lost
defensive
3
line
corners. Yes, they're down Kalijah Cansey. They're down Logan Hall. This is a team that is banged up on the defensive side of the ball headed into Detroit. They're going to need 37 points again. We'll see if they can get it against that Detroit defense. Let's talk about the guy who replaced Baker in Cleveland, Nick. Shall we? Okay. Deshaun Watson. Yes. I heard, and I don't want to, and I want to give them credit for this because I thought this was hilarious. Pardon my take, and I don't often listen to them, but they did say this week that Deshaun Watson might actually be a better human being than he is a football player at this point. And that is a very low bar.
That's a low bar
to clear.
The bar is underground, and that's where Deshaun Watson is as a quarterback right now. He's cooked, Sean. He's cooked.
I mean,
the mental part's not there. The physical part's not there. He had no time to throw. I know that, but he has no idea where the ball's going half the time. He had one good drive. He's cooked. Like it's done. It's over.
He's cooked.
He's done.
And there's a new sexual assault allegation leading to a civil lawsuit. So we're right back to where we started. We're right back to where we started before he was even signed and traded for by the Browns, and then given that just Goliath of a contract. But Nick, what is it? Why is he washed? Like, how did he become this all-world guy? I know he didn't play for the better part of 2 seasons, but like, is that the excuse? Is that the reason?
I mean, that's the big part. He also took a lot of hits.
Katie, stop smiling.
He took a lot of hits.
Oh, I'm not smiling. We all know I struggle to talk about Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. he took a lot of hits in Houston. He ran away from a lot of clean pockets when he was there. That was my biggest gripe with him. And yeah, he led the league in passing right before he sat out for a year. But it was kind of headed in this direction, and just nobody thought it would be this bad. Not playing for mostly 2 years, actually more, considering he was out after week 9 last year and he missed a couple games in between there. Just not a lot of reps and a lot of changes in the offense. And I don't think he fits what the Browns want to do. And I think they tried to shove a square peg into a round hole, and this is the result. So we'll see what happens with that, especially with that latest civil suit. But, which, by the way, I mean, the details of that are just heinous.
They're horrific. And I seriously suggest everyone reads it. It's horrific. It's a situation of like, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. He's a bad quarterback. He's a bad human being. Not only did he not lift the offense, he was a liability to it. He's a liability to that team. The vibes around the team are just so bad, and they're losing fans left and right, rightfully so. The Browns deserve what they're getting in this moment. You reap what you sow. That's how I look at this. You lie in it, and it just all feels like instant karma because he's not a good quarterback. Every single thing. There's not one thing that he's doing bad. All of it, as the experience, looked really, really bad. And that's just the vibe he's brought to that organization. They welcomed that. But other teams also did too, and they lost out on the battle. I think the Colts were in it. I think the Falcons were in on it. Like,
I think the Panthers may have been.
I think the Panthers were too. So, man, I don't want to leave those teams out of the conversation that tried to sign up for this and didn't.
There were always going to be teams that were going to sign up for it too, because they thought they were going to get, what was that, circa 2020, Deshaun Watson that was a half away from leading his team to the Super Bowl. My question to you then, Nick, is what we saw on Sunday against the Cowboys was just like it was worse than I imagined, because I picked the Browns to win that. Shock the Cowboys.
Yeah, we also overlooked the fact that they were going with their 2 backup tackles and ended up on a 3rd string right tackle. And
that's I get that, but like, we didn't see anything good. We haven't seen anything good from Deshaun Watson. So my question then is, do we find ourselves in a Russell Wilson situation like we did in Denver, where money be damned. This is we need to win games, and when will it be Jameis time in Cleveland?
That's a great question. I don't know, but I do think that you're going to see Jameis or DTR, who they're internally a lot higher on than I think they're like leading on publicly. I don't see Deshaun playing every game this year. Not if it goes the way it did. He doesn't play every game this year. And he doesn't make it to year 4 of the contract, and we'll let them sort that out. I'm not going to make any predictions, in terms of because the dead cap on that is massive. But
Yeah, well,
not a good situation.
175 million, I think it is, something like that.
It's a lot. I haven't looked it up in a while because it just keeps ballooning as they continue to restructure him to make the cap work out in the short term. Over the cap says if they released him pre-June, post-June first cut next year, $118 million.
118. Sorry, I was off.
Holy crap. That's a lot of money. That's half your cap.
Oh my God.
To have somebody not play for you. Yeah, they're in a bad spot. That's all I have to say about that. Let's move on.
Well, I mean, look, the Cleveland Browns do deserve this. They signed up for this. They do deserve this. The fans do not, because that is a loyal fan base that loves their team. Win, lose, winless seasons, it doesn't matter. Like I feel for Browns fans at this point. I really do. Yeah.
No,
and to have to watch Baker bake in Tampa. I know that's starting to like make its rounds. Those stats are starting to be compared in one another. And look, it was never going to work in Cleveland. We know that. But at the same time, like, it is kind of ironic to just see your ex, living life on the beach in Florida, just balling out with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Steelers talk real quick.
Sure.
All right.
How are you doing, Sean?
I'm doing great, actually.
You got the win, but at what cost?
Now he's trying to irritate me, which is funny. Based on that
I'm really not. I'm really not.
And I don't think you understand the emotion is gone here, Sean.
I'm not trying to. No, I promise I'm not. We alluded to it earlier, so I wanted to get to it. No, I mean, it was it was at times painful to watch Justin Fields play quarterback, and I really do want to see Russell Wilson run that offense, because I don't care how washed he is, he can push the ball down the field better than Justin Fields. Like, that's just got to be a fact. At one point in the game on Sunday, I was asking myself, do I want Kenny Pickett back running this offense? And at the end of the game, the answer was a resounding no, because here's something that Justin Fields did better than Kenny Pickett was ever able to do. The Steelers offense stayed on the field, never found the end zone, but it stayed on the field. 2 3-and-outs the entire game. And that was what killed drives. That was what killed not just the offense, but the entire team. Even before Kenny was quarterback, when Ben Roethlisberger was in his twilight, the 3-and-outs derailed this team, because the defense, as good as it is, was on the field so much. And they can only do so much when they're not getting a break, when they're only getting a 5-minute break in between being on the field. So offense stayed on the field, sustained drives, got into field goal range. Chris Boswell, perfect on the day. Great for him. But then you saw the Steelers defense really go to work. And that defense, if it's healthy, and if the offense can just give it time, yeah, that's going to keep them in almost every game this year. That is going to be. Why are you shaking
How
your head?
sustainable is that, though? Like, it feels like that's not something you can just do against every defense.
Well, if that's your game plan and you can execute it, why can't that be your plan? Like, why can't a defense be a calling card?
Because it's not 2002.
Well, tell that to Mike Tomlin. Take your gripes up with him. I thought the defense looked great. That's been honestly, that's kind of been a knock for me too. Is like, yeah, this is the highest paid defense in the NFL. Well, play like it, because yeah, you're top 10 in a couple of statistics, but then you're like kind of middle of the road in some. Like, this is not the best defense in the NFL, even though it's the highest paid. It looked like one of the best on Sunday. I get it. They're playing the Falcons. New offense, new head coach, but we'll see. Again, yeah, we'll see how sustainable that is, but I don't know. The defense made it all worthwhile, I'll say that.
I mean, it carried them to victory.
It did.
They had 270 yards of total offense. They won time of possession by more than 11 minutes. And Justin Fields, okay, I need to go on a rant.
Please.
I hate casual football fans. The same football fans who got behind Deion Sanders' Colorado team last year that went 4-8, mind you. The same casual football fans who look at Justin Fields' stat line and his notoriety as a person and think, oh, he should really get the starting job. They power these useless conversations and this useless tail chasing that we in media have to do. every freaking week when they go out and win a game in which he did almost nothing. He did more with his legs than his arm. You can vouch for that, Sean.
Yes, he
in
did.
Multiple instances, he picked up first downs with his legs, key first downs late in the game, which is great. But that's, like Katie said, not sustainable. So to you casual football fans who are in your barbershop or your bar or your buddy's living room and you're discussing the Steelers quarterback situation, get off the Justin Fields train. I hate to say it because I know they won the football game, but the Bears broke him and he's not getting any better anytime soon. So give it up already.
Yes, the Bears broke him. I'm talking to you, Austin Coley, in Cuyahoga Falls, my college roommate, who kept texting me like, Justin's going to pop off. You watch. I miss him, man. I know we got Caleb now, but he's a Bears fan, by the way, if you can't tell. Justin's going to pop off. You're lucky. And I'm like, dude, I was like, he's missing wide open receivers in the flats. He's missing his check down receivers. It ain't happening. And I want to see Russell Wilson in there sooner rather than later. By the way, can I just say, can we get off the whole thing of it was really weird that Russell Wilson was in his pads on the sideline? He was inactive. He wasn't inactive, first of all. He was listed as the third string quarterback for this game. He was healthy enough to play if needed.
I looked it up. He was inactive.
He was inactive, John. He was dressed as the emergency third string quarterback. That's what it was.
Okay.
But he was inactive, and
which you don't need to be. It was deeply corny.
My question is then, what happens if Justin Fields goes out on one play and on the very next play Kyle Allen goes out?
Yeah,
do you then have to pause the game, go run into the locker room, put your pads on, tape up your ankles, tape up your wrists, wait a whole 10 minutes? No.
They'll usually go to break for injury anyways.
I'm just saying,
if the first quarterback goes down, then he will start putting his pads on. I'm
not trying to fall into the trap of like, I'm a Russell Wilson ride or die guy, but I'm also like, that's a little tiring. Like, he's not being that weird. Like, he's showing him like, I'm healthy enough to be out here. And he was over talking to Justin after every drive. He was doing what he needed to do. I would like to see Russell Wilson run this offense.
I might regret eating. That's all I want to do is just fact check.
That's fine. I might
inactives right in front of me right here, and he was inactive.
I might regret those words later on. I might eat those words later on about wanting him to run this offense, but we shall see.
Well, no, the beauty of it, Sean, is that like your team's going to be in every game because your defense is good. It's not because of the offense or the quarterback. The offense is going to be what it is. By the way, George Pickens remains a dog. He's a stud. I wish he had a good quarterback throwing to him. Your defense is going to keep you in most games, so every game is going to be entertaining. It's just that like you can't really expect much from Fields or Wilson. This is just
I can't.
who you are.
Yeah, all my feelings with Wilson come from just being the jaded Seahawks fan, but also like the season because there were 2 seasons in a row where he was like total MVP talk the first half of the season and then totally trailed off. And that last one was so rough. And that's when I think I was doing Vancouver radio. So I was talking about Russell Wilson every single week throughout the entire 18 weeks of that, but it was a sharp decline. And you saw flashes of it in Denver where he got less bad, but it didn't feel like he got good. And it didn't feel like it was a situation where I watch him and I go, I want that guy running my offense. It just feels like the Steelers have a bit of a mess situation.
I don't think that they care that much, honestly, because like you said, the defense is going to carry them. And as long as the offense can be somewhat competent, more competent than it has been the past 2-3 seasons, which again isn't asking a lot. This team could win 10-11 games. We'll see. Let's do winners and losers from week 1, guys.
Wait, can we talk first about Tom Brady's broadcasting debut, please?
Sure. I'll be honest, though, as a Fox employee, I'm sorry, a colleague of Tom Brady's. I could slack him right now. I could slack him right now, guys, if you really want me to. I honestly, I didn't see a lot of it because we didn't get that game.
I'll tell you how it was. C- at best. This is Chris Collinsworth. Here's a guy. Tom Brady is very clearly not comfortable broadcasting yet. And Patrick Claybon on NFL Daily on Sunday night actually offered a very interesting theory. Tom Brady is a known slinger of cuss words. Okay. He loves the F-bombs, right? I think there was a few times where he stopped himself or was afraid to keep talking because he was going to let one slip. Because there was multiple times in this game where he's like in the middle of making a point and just stops abruptly. There was a period where Kevin Burkhardt leaves all this air open for him to come in and analyze a play, and Tom just sits there in silence. And then there was another instance in which he's trying to do the Romo and like, here's man coverage and Amari Cooper and here's this and that. And he just stops in the middle of that. And I'm like, Tom, what are you doing? In fact, the most he spoke about was trying to will the Browns to get back into a game. Like, this is what you need. You just need to move the football down the field and, just keep fighting, just keep fighting, just keep fighting. I'm just like, Jesus, Tom, like, I know you got more up there in that brain than that. So, it's cool that he's there. He's totally not worth the money. It's not like Jason Witten bad.
$375 million.
Dog, that's almost as bad as the Deshaun Watson contract. Having said that, he will get better, but not the debut that we thought it was going to be.
I don't want to dog the guy because obviously he is one of the best football minds in the world. We've all been in front of that camera before, right? When that little red light is on, it is a little nerve-wracking, especially when you are live. Amplify that times 300 million because this game was, in all but name, a nationally televised game. Only two markets that didn't get it were Tampa Bay and Washington, D.C. Like, this was everyone's, I saw Fox. It was the most watched week one game on Fox ever. I'm like, well, yeah, because it was a nationally televised game. Like, you were
America's
missing
game of the
two
week.
markets. Like, this, of course, it was the most watched because everyone could watch it. A little bit of a jaded stat right there. Sorry, not trying to knock my own company. But at the same time, yes, I think he'll get better. It'll come with time. But obviously, because he still can't sit in production meetings, right? He still can't sit in on all these meetings because he's trying to become a part owner of the Raiders. Pick a lane, Tom. What do you want to do?
Choose one. I will say this in his defense: when I often do live TV, I just black out. I rehearse with my notes, and then I just black out and just hope it goes well. So, like, I don't know, Tom, black out. You don't need drugs or alcohol; just black out. That's all you need.
Sean, I do deeply admire and respect your opinion, and you're more respectable than I am because I do want to dog on Tom Brady. I thought it was really refreshing to see him be bad at something.
Yeah,
I love that.
You know what? That's a fair point. I'm contractually obligated to not dog on my own company or its entities, but you know what?
I have some gripes with your company as a whole, but I won't get into them.
We don't need to go down that road right now. But at the same time, dental is great. You know what, Katie? It actually that is a really funny take because it is refreshing to see Tom Brady bad at something.
It is. He
He's
made
human.
so much money, and he just there was a part of me that was getting pretty pissed off where I'm like, he's gonna walk in there and he's just gonna be naturally so good and he's gonna be charismatic and he's gonna be so smart and filling all these gaps and everything. And instead he would just like stop mid-sentence and then wait a second and then keep going. And I'm like, are you like AI breaking down right now? Like what is happening? And I say this as someone that really, really struggles to not curse. I think I've only said one F word this pod. That is no excuse. I have a terrible potty mouth, as you guys both know. And somehow I can string together a few sentences sometimes on this podcast. Without swearing. And I did live radio.
Potty mouth?
Couldn't be me. But I did live radio the whole Sportsnet 650 tenure. I did not say one swear word. So that's bullshit.
Nailed it.
All right. Winners and losers of week one. Let's each give a winner. Let's each give a loser. Let's start with the losers. Katie, who's your loser for week one?
My loser, I didn't get a chance to talk about them because it's totally fine. But when we were talking about the Panthers, you kind of moved on to the Giants. But I have a lot of gripes with having to watch the Panthers. Those are my losers for this week. We did talk about them, but one funny point is I think it's got to be hard to be a Panthers fan on Sunday and watch Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield do all that.
Yeah.
But you guys talked about them already. Bryce Young, I thought he looked lost. 2 ugly interceptions. In 2019, everybody's talking about this. All of it was bad. The whole experience was bad. I wish they could be relegated to a different league. I don't need to watch them every Sunday. I don't need to watch them ever in this state. But a bunch of people are kind of bringing back up that in 2019, David Tepper said that mediocrity wouldn't be tolerated. And I saw a tweet that was like, I think we understood what he meant by that. Because I think a lot of Panthers fans would accept mediocrity right now because they're so bad that I
was about to say,
it doesn't even feel like that's their ceiling. Like they're unwatchable. Those are my huge losers for this week.
Nick, your losers.
I was going to say the Cleveland Browns, but we already touched on that enough. The Tennessee Titans. Look, man, you went up. Joe Biden. Look, man. Look. You went up 17-0 on this team, and had this game in control, and Caleb Williams couldn't do much of anything. And then you just steadily melted down. You got a punt blocked for and returned for a touchdown by Simone Biles' husband. His name's Jonathan
Thank you for
Owens,
calling him that too.
I like calling him that.
Thank you.
And then with the game on the line, clinging to a 1-point lead, Will Levis, alpha male who thinks he can do anything, has a little bit of Jameis Winston in him, decides to flip it backward-handed, shades of Brandon Weeden. It gets picked off in return for a touchdown, and it spawned the greatest still image in perhaps the history of pro football, which was Will Levis on his knees, full surrender cobra, as the whole all the action is going the other direction. Fantastic moment for a team that should have won in week 1. Caleb Williams threw for 93 yards. 93 yards.
Not the best. Yeah, not the best of debuts.
And you lost to that. Losers for week 1.
Losers.
Losers.
You're a loser.
Let's see. My loser for week 1. Can I say the Miami-Dade Police Department?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, not a great look. We didn't touch on the whole Tyreek Hill incident, being detained by Miami-Dade PD, trying to go to the game. He was speeding, gets pulled over. You can look at it from both sides, okay? Because, like, yeah, Tyreek was being Tyreek, who notably has had trouble with just people in general in the past. But then you also have a police officer that kicked him when he was down, tackled him to the ground after he was already on the ground. I mean, there's 105 minutes of body cam video out there. And for about like the first 10 minutes, I'm like, all right, you didn't need to pull him out of his car like that. But I mean, I guess like if he's not rolling his window down, yeah, you got to detain him, whatever. Okay, you don't need to kick him while he's already on his knees. That's kind of messed up. Okay, you don't need to do like, it's just someone in this situation needed to be an adult. And no one stepped up to be an adult in this situation. No one, not Tyreek, not anyone wearing a badge. It was Calais Campbell that stepped up to try and be an adult in that situation.
They tried to chase him off and cuffed him.
And they cuffed Calais Campbell too. So at some point, someone just needed to just stop and be like, hey, you know what? This is escalating beyond a point where it needs to go. Like, let's just take a beat, everybody, okay?
There was a moment in the body cam footage where...
Did you watch all 105 minutes?
No, I watched...
I was going to say I watched about 15, 20.
One of the officers walks up to the other one and he goes, you know who that is? Like talking to Tyreek on the ground. And he goes, that's one of the Dolphins like star players. It's like a franchise player. And the guy just goes, oh, and then just continues on the laptop on the back of this bike.
No. I had that in my notes too. He said, do you know who that is? And then he goes, oh, fuck.
Oh, that's what he said?
Oh,
yeah.
That's 2 curse words.
Which this time, this was in my notes to talk about this. I'm very, very passionate about talking about this. That was a standout from all of the horrific things that we saw in that body cam footage, because it was that moment of like, oh, we might actually have eyes on us about this.
Yeah.
When they realized who it was. Like,
what, sports car wasn't a giveaway? Like, hello.
Well, see, this came up in the office today. It's like, well, he's driving a $300,000 car. I was like, yeah, but it is Miami. You see those more often.
That's true. Not. That's a good point. That's a good point.
I was like,
usually the rentals.
I was like, it's not. That's not a dead giveaway that he's a. In fact, like that's not even the expensive model. I don't know. I'm kidding. I invite you to go watch the video for yourself. Read up all you can. Make up your own minds about it. I'm not going to tell you any more about it. But yeah, Miami-Dade Police Department. Kind of my losers this week because they're not looking too good. Kind of like the Louisville Police Department did a couple months ago with
Scotty
Scheffler.
Jeff Darlington on the scene at both sites. What the hell?
I know. It's almost like who's the weatherman from the Weather Channel that shows up only if there's a hurricane in your town?
He's wearing a baseball helmet. Yeah.
Yeah. I forget his name at this moment, but like if Jeff Darlington shows up, run. Just run because someone's about to get arrested.
An over-aggressive cop is going to.
Yeah.
I have many, many, many thoughts about this, but I don't need to bring them out on this podcast. But
let's go to your winner, Katie. How about that?
Indoor voices, Katie. Yeah.
No, like indoor voices, yes.
Yes.
But also, like, I'm sick and tired of people talking about Deshaun Watson only as a football player, just like I'm sick and tired of a lot of the coverage of this. It's yet another example of police brutality against a black man in America and the cops escalating a situation for no reason. And they put Tyreek on the ground. Everyone needs to watch that footage. I think it's very important for everybody to watch. They also, like you said, put Calais Campbell in handcuffs, who literally won Walter Payton Man of the Year for trying to de-escalate the situation.
The goodest guy. He won the award for being the goodest guy in the NFL. And he got put in handcuffs.
And every single thing that he reported is exactly what happened. He broke down what happened, and then he walked up, and then they released the body cam footage earlier than it would if it was anyone else.
And you know what's
And I do think it is important not to just use our inner voices with that. I say all this as a privileged white woman, but even I can see how horrific the situation is. I'm happy it's not another situation where this is a black man turned into yet another statistic at the hands of the police. We've seen it so many times, and this was just broad daylight in Miami with everybody watching with their cell phones, and these people felt comfortable doing that.
What I think also kind of speaks volumes too is that the Dolphins released a statement basically saying like the cops went too far.
I
And
loved their statement. I was happy with that.
That speaks volumes because this is an NFL team. Stephen Ross owns the Dolphins. He is by no means, he's a rich white guy, right? Like he's a rich white billionaire in Miami. Take with that what you will. And they come out with this statement that says the cops were in the wrong this time. Well, these are the same cops that patrol your parking lots on game day, patrol your sidelines on game day, protect your players and protect your coaches. It takes some chutzpah to come out with a statement that definitive and say, you were wrong this time. Because in the past, a lot of organizations, as powerful as NFL teams are, have shied away from that. So I think that speaks volumes. Again, the video is all out there. The police released all 105 minutes of it, different angles. Go watch it for yourself. Go form your own opinion on that. Let's go to winners. Katie, your winner from week 1.
The Lions.
Yeah.
Nick and I both, I still can't believe that pod where I losing sleep where I'm like, I wish I went first with my Super Bowl pick because Nick and I had the exact same Super Bowl pick. I am so stoked on the Lions. Watching them run the ball in that overtime drive, I was like off my couch the entire time, just like screaming with, we've talked about it before, like I would run through a wall for Dan Campbell, and that was a drive that just like showed who that team was.
They literally ran through a wall.
They literally ran through the wall, and the Rams I was really impressed with. Like they had a lot of injuries come up in that game. There were a lot of missing pieces like Puka Nacua. All of it was just like, man, this is looking pretty rough already in week 1. And I was really impressed at how they were able to stay in it. And Matthew Stafford is just so good. When he's good, he's so good. But the Lions, I was just like so stoked watching them because like we talked about with the Bengals, like it is week 1 and maybe not everybody's ready, but the Lions looked so ready, so prepared. They were such a fun watch, and I just like can't wait to watch them every Sunday when they're on Sunday because they rightfully are in a lot of primetime games.
Yeah. Nick, your winners?
I had a tough time on this one because, well, I mean there was a few blowouts and everything else.
Didn't ask for your life story. Asked for a winner.
Frankly,
The sass.
the greatest winner of week 1 is Sam Darnold.
Oh,
yes.
You know what, Nick? I appreciate that.
Look, he numbers wise didn't put up gaudy numbers, but he faced a chance of not even getting this job if JJ McCarthy hadn't gotten hurt, right? He arrived there and folks are just like, well, they're going to draft a quarterback because they can't possibly proceed forward with Sam Darnold. And yet here they are, and that's what they're doing. And he went out there and owned that situation like a veteran. He did not see the ghost that he saw in New York or Carolina. Maybe a year in San Francisco helped him out. I'm not going to say it fixed him because it's a long season and they were playing the Giants. But for 1 week, Sam Darnold had a starting job in the NFL and he didn't crumble. And it's the first time I've ever seen him do it in the NFL, and I'm happy for him. So he's a winner.
Did you guys watch Red Zone at all? I'm guessing not.
No.
Well, I mean, I have my own red zone here, Katie.
Yeah, that's what, as soon as I said
Nick
it,
is
I'm
the
like,
red
oh,
zone.
Nick has like 8 separate screens. But it was really funny because on the broadcast, they were showing Sam Darnold do everything. And then they were like, Scott Hansen was like, we're going to bring you to this game. And it's not for the reason you expect. And he missed the pass. And they were like, this is his first incomplete pass of the day. And he was playing so well that it was notable that he missed his guy on Red Zone, which you don't see very often, especially with a guy like Sam Darnold.
I got to give my winner to one team that we really didn't mention. It's the Texans. It's that they are going to be a problem this season. They are going to be a big problem. I know it wasn't the cleanest game from them, The Colts are also going to be pretty plucky this year if Anthony Richardson can stay healthy and continue to develop. Just the guy's a freak. He's the youngest starting quarterback in the league. He is younger than the rookies starting in this league at quarterback. And just that 60-yard touchdown pass that as he was falling down, just my God, he's insane. But the Texans, to still overcome that on the road, the South is going to run through them. Man, that is going to be a team that if they wind up in the Super Bowl, I would not be that surprised.
CJ Stroud's still awesome. Stephon Diggs had 2 touchdown catches. Stroud had his own nice little play from his knees when he fell down because that field there was apparently slippery. I think it's a new surface. And the moxie, man, he ripped a bullet on 3rd down. They needed a first down to ice the game, and he put it in an eye of a needle sized window to Nico Collins for such a great catch that fans in Indianapolis were irate when review upheld the ruling, but it was a catch and a great game for the Texans and CJ Stroud, whose ceiling remains sky high. And perhaps, Katie, our Super Bowl prediction will come true, and perhaps we'll reunite in New Orleans and be like, we got it right.
We predicted this. CJ Stroud looks ready. D'Amico Ryans looks ready. The whole operation.
Yeah, there was no drop off. And adding
Nothing.
Joe Mixon too, that's a cheat code.
Joe Mixon.
Adding Joe Mixon and Stephon Diggs, come on.
And they both had such a huge game. Like, I've never seen that Joe Mixon.
30 carries, 159 and a touchdown. Beauty.
That's gonna be a dog of a team. All right, that's it for the NFL this week. Week 1 is in the books. Week 2 coming up next. Time now, guys.
Before we do this, Troy Meeker's back in the chat.
You always have to interrupt me. I was about to say this, Nick. Jesus. Yes, Troy Meeker says in the chat on YouTube, I once again request that you bring back. Do you even know? You know what, Troy?
Brother, it's a
Maybe
losing
we
fight.
will.
It's a losing fight, my friend.
Maybe
No, don't let Katie convince you otherwise.
Yeah, maybe we will, Troy.
Everyone knows I'll quit the podcast.
At least 2 of these 3 hosts, and I'm not saying which ones, do you even know to come back?
Yeah.
In some form or fashion.
Yeah.
But again, we're not naming names. Just 2 of the 3.
No
I
names,
think you
please.
can guess, though. Time now to switch gears. Let's talk a little F1. Breaking news of the week. It really wasn't breaking news. This was like a slow burn, long time coming. Adrian Newey, Chief Technical Director of Red Bull, formerly of McLaren, formerly of Williams, designer of just godlike cars, has officially signed a contract with Aston Martin. I think they're paying him something like $34 million a year. I love this because F1 is like the one sport where you're like, who's the highest paid player? Oh, it's not even an athlete. It's the nerd. It's the math guy. It's the science guy. I love that. But this guy, he just builds cars that win championships. He won championships at Red Bull. He won championships at McLaren, and he won championships at Williams. He wins wherever he goes. He is signed with Aston Martin. What does this mean?
One of 2 things, Sean. Either they're going to be a title contender before long, or this is going to go the way of the 2019 Browns. That's it. It's the only opportunities.
Do we like this? Do we like this move?
Not one bit.
Okay.
Yeah,
That was my
Thank you.
Cold
favorite
water on it.
option of all the options. I don't want to see Lance Stroll on a rocket ship.
And you're a Canadian.
And I'm a Canadian. And I will defend Lance Stroll. I'm a Lawrence Stroll hater, and he's done all this. But I've tried to defend Lance Stroll, but when it comes to Adrian Newey, I'm protective over Adrian Newey. And I really wanted him at Ferrari. Or my sneaky pick, Williams. Like, I wanted him to either have the challenge of Williams or working with Lewis Hamilton and working with Charles and having that all come together. And it's a Nepo baby in a rocket ship. What are we doing here?
Look, I mean, the guy saw $34 million a year. He gets to stay in England. He gets to stay at Silverstone. And yeah, he's close to retirement age. How do you pass that up?
I get it for
my
him.
God.
I'm just disappointed. As an F1 fan, I'm disappointed because I think other fits could have been more fun.
I agree.
It leaves them in an interesting position, though. Like, what if Lance is in the best car on the grid?
And
What if he's a Checo? Like, I wonder what that does drama-wise in the sport.
Exactly. I can foresee. So this probably means little for next year because there's just not enough time. The regulations don't change. But in 2026, when the regulations change, we know what Adrian Newey did this time around with the regulations change at Red Bull. He gave them a car that won max 3 world titles, or is going to be 3 world titles in this car. 2026 is the year you look at. What?
He's already won 3.
No, but this will be his 3rd in the new regulations.
No, okay.
Stay with me, Nick. There we go.
I'm so glad I stuck along for that.
Yeah, there you go. In 2026, when the regulations change again, that's when Aston Martin's really going to go, okay, we're going to have this Adrian Newey designed car and we can be there. It's going to be Fernando Alonso, though. Like, he's going to hold on so long to try and win that 3rd world title.
Hell yeah.
That would probably be like the longest in between world titles in F1 history, wouldn't it? Because I think his last one came in 2006. 20 years between world titles. That would have to be the longest gap.
Eat your heart out, Tom Brady.
But
He'll be the LeBron of F1, where it's like he's turning 30. Thank God we've only got a few more years of this.
I hate the thought, though, Katie, you're right, of seeing Nepo baby Lance Stroll, who really at this point should not be in Formula One, in a car, in a race winning, in a championship potential winning car. I loathe the thought of that.
I'm curious to see, because they'll have to take a long, hard look in the mirror when that happens. If they have an absolute race car and you have someone firing it into the wall all the time or just not being competitive, like, that's some good drama material, because you can't. How long can you keep doing it? Like, I felt like last year, it felt like we were almost going to have that conversation because Aston jumped so high, but then they just fell off so far that it was like, oh, okay, they're sorting themselves out. But yeah, like, that's going to be something they'll have to really address if it comes to fruition, which I think it will with Newey.
My honest opinion, I do not think it will ever be a conversation. I think Lance Stroll will be in that car until Lawrence Stroll no longer owns the team. I don't think it'll be a conversation ever. I don't care if he's pulling a Checo and losing races in the best car. I don't think it'll be a conversation ever. He will never give up that seat.
3:30 in the morning conversation with a certain someone roughly 7 months ago. I can confirm this. That is absolutely what's going to happen.
This is why you come to the Gridiron podcast, for that type of intel.
However cryptic it may be.
No name.
Aside from that, it is race week. Once again, we had a week off, and this week we are headed to Baku. One of my favorite races on the calendar, honestly. Another street race. We got a couple street races coming up. And this one in Azerbaijan. We got the cool castle section, and we've got the long straights. Craziness usually ensues unless it's last year. I don't know. You just want to get right into podium predictions?
Yeah, I don't think there's much to say about this race other than that it's a fun race. And we're at a really fun time and a really fun season for F1. And let's just go straight to predictions. There's nothing more to say.
Yeah. All right. Katie, start us off.
Oh, I wasn't prepared for my prediction.
Okay, Nick,
off the cuff. Let's go.
Nick,
okay.
No, you, Katie, go.
P1. I'm going to say, I think Max wins another race. It's been a while, which is very weird to say out loud. I think Charles P2, and then I think Oscar P3.
Okay.
And I think there's going to be a red flag because we've got a couple basically rookies. They each have one race, and there's a lot of really tight walls. And this is kind of one that can really catch the rookies off guard. So whether it's them or not, I don't want to put that into the universe, but I think there's going to be a red flag, and this race is going to be spicy.
Yeah, we do have Ollie Behrman racing for Kevin Magnussen, who finally, at long last, got a race suspension because he got 12 penalty points. Nick, your top 3.
3 months. First off, I'm just glad that we got an opportunity to hear Katie say flag. Flag.
Flag.
As she's drinking, hopefully she doesn't spit out her wine. Because that's always just my favorite part of the show. I
was just watching the debate, Nick. We're drinking.
Of course, understandably so. I'm going to go Lando Norris P1, Charles Leclerc P2, Max Verstappen P3, Oscar ends up 4th. And I think if there's Katie's got a very good point. Max is going to win a race at some point. This is probably the track that benefits them, but I just have no confidence in Red Bull right now. And I don't think Max does either. So he ends up on the podium, but not in serious contention for the win.
I am so conflicted with this because it's so hard. It's so hard to pick these this year because this season is so close. It is so good. It's
Except for
fun
that
to
one
watch.
time when I nailed it. Except for that one time.
Except for that one time. What race was that?
I don't know. I forget.
You did nail one race completely top to bottom. My heart wants to say Charles wins because he is a good street racer. I don't know if that Ferrari has that pace though on those long straights.
Yeah, that's why.
So
pretty good the last couple races.
He
No,
did.
He just went the Temple of Speed.
He did,
kind of
because he didn't pit for a second
door.
time. If he had pitted for a second time, that would have been a McLaren 1-2. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to agree with you, Nick. I'm going to go Lando P1. And the only reason I'm not picking Oscar, who looks better at this point in the season, is because he is younger, he is newer, and Lando does not make many mistakes unless it's lap one. I think the experience of Lando Norris can pull out a race at a street circuit. I'll take Oscar P2, and I will take Max P3.
And this is the end of the papaya rules, I think. They got absolutely roasted.
Yeah.
Even Will Buxton took them to task.
This is officially Lando can win the world championship. Our focus needs to be on him. And if it's not, I don't know what we're doing anymore, guys. Like, seriously, what are we doing?
Papaya rules.
Papaya rules.
Katie, I was waiting for that.
Papaya rules. Hey, guys.
Face.
Who rules?
Oh, Doyle.
Papaya rules.
Papaya rules. All right. That it? We good?
Man, are we doing a quick, tidy 107 pod today?
Oh, yeah.
Not too much to talk about with F1. Adrian Newey. I mean, this Adrian Newey stuff, it was going to happen. Everyone knew it was Aston Martin for like the last month. We were just waiting for confirmation. So it is what it is. I mean, he's just making a ungodly amount of money to design a car, which, hey, man, good for him. Get your bag. If they don't have Brinks trucks over there, I hope you back up something.
I saw a breakdown of his hourly wage, and it was like 3,400 pounds or something per hour.
Gee, what a life.
Very normal society.
Only 100 times more than I make. 1,000 times more than I make.
But
this
man,
has been
Adrian Newey.
It is Adrian Newey. Way to interrupt my outro there. Again, anything else, Nick?
Sure, Sean. But I would like you to speak first so I can interrupt you as well and irritate you.
This has been episode 47 of the Gridiron Podcast. As always, you can click, like, subscribe, share, give us a listen. Give us an email at thegridironpodcast3@gmail.com. That's thegridironpodcast3@gmail.com. We love to hear from you. For Nick Shook and Katie Caldwell, I'm Sean Barry. And as always, live life in the fast lane.
And be as good as TJ Watt was against Caleb McGarry on Sunday. Good night, Atlanta.
That's why we're friends, buddy.
Good night, Canada.
Good night, Ray Gun.